Thanks for joining me, and this is a tutorial on how to make a billet holder or several billet holders. In the end, I'm going to show you how to make a very specific new creation, and I won't tell you about it now, but I'll show you it later. So what I'm doing here is folding up some billets. These billets are the ones that I normally use, that size anyway. An average billet is about 2 inches by 3.5 inches, your standard business card size. However, these little red cards I use, they are 1 inch and 3, well actually they're 1 inch and 13/16 by 2 and 13/16. So roughly 2 inches by 3.5 inches, just a bit shorter. So as you see here, they're going to fit over an edge like this, only in the billet holder, which is card size here. You'll see them all. There's all 8 of them in place. You can easily just use your thumb to pull each one out. Now this card, although made from playing cards, will not fit it won't fit on a table during your performance. You're actually going to have this in your pocket, or use a magnet or a pin to pin it to your shirt or inside pocket. Now the billet fold, like you see, you can fold it this way, lengthwise or horizontal, like the queen here showed here in the Queen of Spades card. The basic idea is you palm one off using sort of an alphabetic system or numeric system so that you can know exactly which billet you're pulling off. Here we have the jumbo card, the King of Hearts. It actually holds quite a bit of billets, 12 to be exact. The 3 of diamonds there is a smaller one, and it holds about 8 little billets. But I'm going to show you real quick on how to load these. Assuming you know the billets should be faced the same direction, that is, the fold of the card faces to the left. Each one does. Now basically what you want to do is take your billet and start at the top and then hold it in place. You'll see the bottom of the fold just flaps up, but the card after this one holds the top card in place underneath it, like that. And so on down the list. This is how the billets are resting in place, but for now we're going to go ahead and start making these billet holders. So all you need is a couple of cards. I'm going to start with the jumbo cards. You can see here on the smaller cards, and I've marked it up a little bit. Now the lines, the first line here is actually kind of important because it has to be further away from the top of the card, because the first billet that you put in, the fold at the top could be seen. So I'll show you that here in a minute, but for now I'm just going to cut these cards. When I made mine, I used a straight edge and a ruler, a metal ruler, and then a knife that you see laying here. But you don't actually need that. It's just preferred if you want to do this perfectly. The corners you cut are just little 45s. They do not go all the way down past the half position. I'm going to take another card, another one. want to use a straight edge if you want, perfect lines and perfectly spaced. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going ahead and cutting really fast so that you can get the general idea of how to make these. And this one just takes seconds to cut. Trying to keep lines straight if you can. You don't want to cut all the way across. That would be cutting the card in half, cutting it in sections. These sections here do not go all the way across. They're just past the frame line of the Joker. Depending on your size of billet, you can cut them thinner or wider. And then go ahead and cut your 45s. So let's start the taping process. It only takes a little strip of tape, maybe 1 3/4 to 2 inches long of tape. And you're going, it's a little hard to see here in the video, but it'll be clearer here in a few moments. Half the tape is going to be on the face of the card and half is going to be underneath each flap. Now here's a little bit better picture of the tape, and you see it right there. Half of the tape goes underneath the card, underneath and underneath. Okay, and that's actually what's going to stick the Jack of Hearts to the 6 of Hearts. And try to line it up as best you can. It does not have to be perfect because nobody's going to see this anyway. But you always want to practice perfection as often as possible. Again, the shaky camera, sorry about that. So we're going to go ahead and tape up the sides and the tops of the card. You don't have to go side to side all the way across. All you want to do is hold the 2 cards together and stop them from separating. I'd actually recommend using better tape than what I'm using here. This is just masking tape, but recently masking tape is not as strong as it used to be, and better tape is always good to use, and something like this. Next and finally, you're going to tape up those edges. Now the edges on a smaller card, you can just lay a strip down like I did here and then take your knife and cut the piece of tape in half. Then the thinner piece of tape is going to be a strip here. Now this, on the jumbo cards, you don't really need to do this, but on the smaller regular playing card size, you're going to need to strip your tape. In fact, I think I'll just go back over this. You can see the width of the tape didn't need to be cut at all, so I'm just going to use a regular piece of tape. I can also slide it underneath like this and fold it over. And that should be strong enough for the card. So that takes care of how to cut the cards. Now, before I'm going to show you the very last thing, I'm going to take a minute here and share with you our Magistrorum poster. It is finally finished. This is the home version. I just printed this on the printer. And if you don't know about this convention, it is bizarre and magic and mentalism. And it is in September 7th, and it runs through the 10th here in Las Colinas, Texas. Get involved with this because you do not want to miss it. Now, the website is there listed on the bottom, Magistrorum.net. And now we're going to move on to the little bonus I was talking about before, about how to use these a little bit better. So I grabbed this little metal shim. I only have one here that's curved, but you want a flat one. And you're going to stick it on the inside of that card, the Jack of Spades, and then grab a flat magnet and stick the flat magnet inside the Jack of Hearts. Like this. Okay, it would be in the inside of this card. I'm not going to glue it or tape it in place here, but I just wanted to mention it because it could lock in place. But the idea itself is using these in like a book form. We're going to be taping the edge, and it'll flap over just like opening a book, but it'll flap all the way over. I'll talk more about the placement of the magnet and the metal shim in a few moments from now. But in the meantime, I'm going to show you how to tape these two cards together. Now, since they're going to open like a book form, you're going to need a little gap in between the cards. So you separate the cards. We're looking at about a 1/16 of an inch. And then take your tape on one side, try to line them up as much as you can, the best you can. And then place your tape down. Sometimes the best way to see if your card is straight is to turn them over. For example, here you see the bottom of the card is just a little bit closer. So I'm just going to take the card off and retape it. I'm trying to keep that gap in between, and this is the reason why. Because when the card flaps over, you want sort of a hinge in between the cards. Take the final piece of tape and fold it in half, or bend it in half, and sort of the creased edge goes in the center first, touching the other side of the face-up piece of tape, and then spread it out with your finger to connect both cards together. And that's sort of a makeshift hinge that also leaves a little bit of a gap in between the cards. The gap is for to assist with the billets, so that there's plenty of room for them to sit inside. This is the metal shim. It can go inside one of the pockets, or you can just glue it to the back of the card. And then there's the magnet, and when they press together, it holds it in place. When you want to switch, you just bend the card over, and it'll lock in place on the other side. But for now, I'm just not using the magnet or the shim. As we move on, we see the billets in the background all placed the way they're supposed to be. But I just wanted to point out that you can use a billet multiple ways. And I'm going to show you both of the most commonly used ways here. This is the fully loaded. One side has 12 billets in it. When you open it up, it kind of opens like a book without the magnet. When you lay it down, it kind of opens a little, which is not bad, because this is not going to be in full view. This will be in your pocket or inside your shirt or inside your case. When you flap it around, the flap holds all the other billets in place. And here you see the billets that are wider. So there you see it. This is how you use the billet holders as sort of a wallet, I guess you might want to call it at this point. Another way to use this is that flap that folds around. If it's empty, you can easily stick that under your magician's mat on top of your case, letting the billet fold side down, so that your audience can't see it, giving you complete access, of course.